Let's go ahead and get started. Out of respect to you for being here on time, I'm going to go ahead and start things going. Art, welcome. And what was I going to tell you? I got, looks like I have a little question already, and it is good morning. Thank you, James. Good morning to you. I figured out how to have closed captioning work at the bottom of the page. And so that's that. I don't know if that's, if you can see it or is it just plain dangerous. So anyway, that being said, let's go ahead and get started. And I want to talk a little bit today. Hi, Jane. Talk a little bit today about the tax data. So I'll start off very mini presentation for purposes of our PowerPoint. I used to do them longer than that, but then the suggestion was that I make them shorter. So here's where we are, Greater San Diego Association of Realtors. There's what we're doing. We're doing webinars. There's my name. There's my email address. And then I'm going to go to the next one. We're going to be talking about the CRS Tax tool. I'm going to show you a couple of different approaches to it. I'm finding that as a practitioner, somebody asked me the other day, can I just go watch the videos on this? And the answer is they don't have any that I can find, although they do have some PowerPoints on it, but they are quite dated. So again, as a practitioner, I'll show you a little bit about how to use this when inputting listings, how to use this when pulling people up, how to do mailing labels, things like that. We'll be talking about stuff that might appear to be legal. I'm not here to give you legal advice. That is always how we start everything. I'm not a practicing attorney, not interested. I do a lot of trial work, usually defending real estate agents. So, and not that they did anything wrong. A lot of times it's just somebody's looking for money. That's all. Okay. So, yeah, our conversation not intended to be a substitute for that. If you're a broker, please. And if you are the broker, you should be talking to yourself. And it's also not a substitute for your conversations with your attorney. There again is my email address. If you want to be on the list that gets, I send it out once a week only. It goes out on Saturday. Send me an email. And if you have sent me an email in the last 24 hours, I have not had a chance to respond to it yet. Again, I'm a practitioner, so I'm in the middle of a bunch of fires myself. So let's go ahead and get started. I want to get into our topic matter here today, and I want you to please. Oh, thank you, John. And I want you to please interrupt me if I'm talking too fast or if I'm saying something that isn't making a lot of sense. We have an hour to do this, and I'm going to tell you it's probably more than enough time, okay? So I'm going to try to find where we are. Here we are. I'm going to take us, first of all, I go into the San Diego website whenever I'm going to get into the multiple listing service. I click on Paragon, and it takes me to this field here, okay? So from here, I can do an awful lot of things. Let me make sure you can see my screen. I have to switch back and forth every once in a while only because sometimes I do something on my computer which causes me to be looking at something differently than what you're looking at. And so I wanted to do that here today. So I have a couple of different ways of doing this. One of the ways is, and I think the most beneficial way is going to be to look at the, that we're going to use is probably going to be at my listing input. But I'm going to tell you how incredibly important it is that when you're writing an offer on a property, that you make sure that you have the names of the seller as they appear on title. Now, there are a lot of different ways to do that, but when we look at this at the MLS, our CRS tax data will give us normally a pretty good idea of what the seller's name as it appears on title. In our brokerage, we dig a little bit deeper. Linda actually pulls up the grant deed to find out, exactly how their names appear on title. And one of the principal reasons behind that is that when we're creating a contract with a seller, whether or not it's us as a listing agent or us as a buyer writing an offer for a buyer, we want to make sure that we actually have a contract. And if we don't have the names of the parties correct, especially on the seller side, which is public information, then we may be creating an agreement with somebody that doesn't have the power to do it. So, for example, the property is held in trust, and we go creating an agreement, a listing agreement with the owner, the owner's name, and not them as trustee. We don't have a listing agreement, and I've had attorneys play this game, in court over issues like that. And so, you don't want to have to, go to that extreme to get paid in a transaction or to make sure that you have a binding agreement. So trust me, your listing agreement needs to have the seller's name as it appears on the title record. Your offer for your buyer has to have the same, okay? Again, not legal advice, but I can just tell you from experience, and I've had this experience, that that when we misspell the parties' names, we may essentially not have a contract. There's other ways to create a contract, but we're not doing a contract law class here right now, okay? So, so that being said, when I go to my screen here, and you can all see my screen right here where it says tax, yours might look a little bit different than mine. I have a different bar up here. I'm kind of into a beach theme, which you can change under preferences. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on tax, and then click on tax, and then I'm going to drop down here to CRS data tax search. And this would help me to look to find a property. It will open it up in another browser window, which I'm sure you can still see. New share, yes, you can still see the browser window. I forgot to close my door. And so this is going to be where we're going to go to in a minute. But in the meantime, back to my Paragon window, when I am creating a new listing, one of the things that I need to know in my listing, and as I go to input a new listing, is I need to know that I have actually the data as it appears in the tax record in my listing. And the reason that we do that is because we want to, anything that we have that we take from a government source, we can count on them having to deal with any kind of indemnification. We took a public record, so to speak, right? But anything that we take that, that we make up ourselves or that we change, then we're going to have to be prepared to defend it, okay? And that the same goes true for when we're doing a, when we pull the record. So let me pull this. I'm going to pull up the tax autofill. Everybody see this here? Tax autofill. And again, I'm just showing you a practical way to do this. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but the first thing I've got to do in here is type in San Diego County. And as I start to type, it gives me my drop down. Now I can put in my tax ID number. I happen to have one saved from something I was working on earlier. So there's my tax ID number. And again, you all can see this screen, right? Yes, you can. Okay, good. So there's my tax ID number. You'll notice up here, it says that there is one. And again, I'm trying to make it easy on myself when I'm inputting my listing. And so I'm going to get the seller part of things out of the way here real quick. And then we're going to go into the buyer, or essentially the more generic, across the board. So I'm going to click on search. And that search is going to take me, he says with confidence, to this line here. Now I can do a couple of things. I can click on this part here, in which case it will pull up the limited information that we have in the tax full report, or I can click on autofill, and that's where I want to go. So I have to select that. So I'm going to go back in here. I'm going to click on search. And then I'm going to click on the ID number of the property. I'm going to click on the box in front of the ID number. I'm going to click on tax autofill. And now this is going to pull up a window. This is fun for me to do this because I did a class yesterday where I had to do this, but I didn't get any time at all to explain it. And so it was like, everybody just had to take it for granted that I knew what I was doing for one thing and that I was getting good data for another. So that being said, you'll notice I have autofill data. So this data is stuff that's going to go automatically into my listing. Now you'll notice in here, there's no checkbox next to FP. FP is fireplace. And so there isn't one, so they just choose not to, put in a blank field. Okay, these numbers here in the number column correspond to our data entry fields on our MLS. So if you look over on the left-hand side, kind of gray on your screen, if you look over on the left-hand side, you'll see 70, 69, 80, 82, and those are just coded fields, okay? John, you're with me on that. I know you are because you appreciate the coding of things. So, and then we see there's no parking garage. There isn't one. There's some carport spaces. So they just don't check the box. So I'm going to trust that the information that is in the county website is accurate. And again, anything that I change, I need to be prepared to defend that. Okay. So As I've said many a time, I love going to court, but there is no money in that for you and I. So be careful what you change. And a really good example of where we get into trouble is up here on our coded field 112, and that is my estimated square footage. And it's interesting because I've had people, real estate agents argue with me that, well, it says estimated. And it's like, you know what, but it is the #1 most litigated issue against real estate agents. So I'm not going to change that unless I've got something that proves that it's something other, something that proves that what I changed it to. Okay, so I don't like to make up those values. And since that's a hot topic, it is just one of those things. And I appreciate what you're saying, estimated. I've been in trials where, on the statewide buyer and seller advisory, in 5 different places, it says that the buyer needs to do their own research to make sure that that the data that they're relying on is accurate. And yet I've had cases where here we had to blow it up on the wall and show it says this. Is this your initial? Yes. Shows this. Is this your initial? Yes. And so, unfortunately, by the time we got to that point, we were $1 million in legal fees. So, so let's please, I believe that you should save the data as it appears, and then resist the temptation of changing it. Okay. And so in my listing, you will see now that it did put a couple things for me. One of the things is it put in the APN number, it put in the address as it appears, the postal services rendition of the address, it's the space number, so now I don't have to worry that I missed a space number, for example. And sometimes that happens. I don't want it to look like a freestanding building. I want it to look like it has units in it. And here's my city, Pacific Beach, which is really a community, but it is the area we're going to call it because it is part of San Diego. Down here, I can validate my map. So anyway, you see what I'm saying? Here's Thomas Brothers coordinates, whether you use them or not. I had somebody made a funny comment yesterday that, they actually still have a Thomas Brothers guide. I think that's been 15, 20 plus years. But the county still uses that data. I say, leave it there. It's not hurting you. And then you just go in, and now all you have to do is fill in the fields that are not brought in by the tax records. So for example, it says it's a 2-bedroom. Okay. It says it's got 2 full baths. It doesn't have any half baths. Here's my square footage. There's my zoning. These are things I don't want to change. Okay. So I want to leave these alone. Year built 1970. Boom. Here goes the trigger, right? Properties built before 1978, we have an obligation to use the lead-based paint disclosure form, right? The CAR form FLD is the form that we would use in that case. So this is why when we take listings, we always make sure that we have an accurate date as it appears from the county, because we need to know. Now, if it said 1960, then I know I need my lead-based paint and I need my earthquake hazards. So that's why dates are so important, and we want to be careful about manipulating dates. And so sometimes I'll have people say, well, the house was remodeled last year, and so I'm going to change the date to 2019. And then I'm going to say, well, yeah, I know, but the building was built in 1978. And so, I think I'd rather leave it this way and then just say in the remarks section that it had been remodeled. Okay. All right. So that being said, a lot of this stuff gets auto-populated for you. I really like that part of this program. Is everybody good with this? I'm gonna go ahead and close this. Do I have any questions? Not so far. Okay, good. Who all? Hi, Antonio. Hey, Don. Welcome back. Jane and Seraphine. Welcome, buddy. Okay, all right. It's kind of like romper room. I get to look around, see who's there. I can't see any of you. Of course, you can see me, but that's just the deal. Okay, so if I don't have any questions on the listing input side, again, this does half my job for me, and this covers the stuff that I tend to get in trouble with. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use my tax autofill for that purpose. Okay, so no questions. Notice down here at the bottom, I have a total of 223 fields, 75 of which are required, and apparently 21 of them were filled by my tax data. So good. Okay, out of there. Do I want to save changes? No. I have this little deal with the MLS. I love our MLS, by the way. We have the neatest people there. And I sent them an email the other day because I wanted to create a listing that, I wanted to create some stuff that I wouldn't be able to reverse, right? Once you put it in the MLS, it doesn't come back out again. And they actually had a whole nother paragon for me to work out of, which they're awesome. So anyway, that being said, so now I've gone to apparently a listing that I have in progress. I don't think I need to do anything in here. Now, there's nothing really to do in there. As you know, I don't usually take listings. That was just something I'm helping somebody out. So, okay, so that being said, I'm going to click on my tax again. And when I do that, I'm going to click on my tax search. It's going to pop open a window. I'm going to close the other one. And let's take a look at some of the things that you can do in here. Are there any questions so far? Because I know I'm talking pretty quick, and I'm doing pretty good on time, but I do want to show you some things in here. One of the most important things that I need you to do, okay, and this is a homework assignment, and you all know I was teaching in 3 colleges there for a while, so I was loving giving homework assignments, most of which were topical and were important, okay? So, you know, I've got a couple of things going on. One of them is I got my logo up here, I've got my name, I've got my email address, my telephone number, okay, how did I get all that up there? Well, the way I got there is I went to Profile and Settings. So when I click over here on Profile and Settings, it is going to hopefully cooperate. I'm running a gig of internet, and sometimes I wonder if I've got like 45 TVs going somewhere. So here are my fields. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because we've done this before, but also there are only a couple of key things that are going to be important in here anyway. So first of all is my branding. I'll click on my branding button, and then over here I can just put, you know, load my image. So John, if you've got a logo or something like that, go ahead and click on that, put it in there, put in your name as you want it to appear. Why am I broker associate? I don't care about that, except I got my logo up here, so I don't need it twice. There's my telephone number. I use dots instead of dashes, so that it's ADA compliant. There's my email address, and part of the reason that I do this is because when I'm printing some of these reports and I'm sending them to clients, I want them to have a true picture of me. At the same time, I'm advertising my own brand, and this is not a violation. So I had a really good conversation this morning with someone. They're not on this webinar right now, but they are being asked by a listing agent to have their buyer sign an MLS printout. And so, of course, you may not be displaying a full agent printout to a non-subscriber. So they were being asked to have the buyer sign an agent printout. What they meant to say was that they wanted the buyer to sign the tax data. And so that they had seen the tax data. I'm not sure why, because they're the buyer side, and the listing side is the one asking for the buyer to sign it. So it started out misspeaking, I believe, and then it became, no, we want them to sign the tax data. So the answer to, should the buyer be required to sign, you know, if requested, can the buyer sign? Well, first of all, you can't even show the agent full MLS printout to that buyer, so no, they don't sign that. But under the tax data, it's public information. So if they're going to sign it, I want my name on it. I want people to see that, and that is not something that's going to be a violation for terms of our MLS. This means I'm just branding what our tax data looks like. Okay, so take advantage of that. You know, you need to, you know, you have enough, you spend enough money in real estate, and I want to see you get some perks out of it. So fill in your information. You can put in a personal note. I didn't have anything to talk about. I'm going to go here to my email address. And then again, here's my email address. Pretty simple. Default county, San Diego. That's just the way I'm going to be. And you can go through all of these, and I'm not going to go through them right now unless anybody has anything in particular that they want to see. But these are all, you know, this is all pretty boilerplate, easy enough to fill out. We could do a whole class on that, okay? So does everybody understand what I'm saying? Profile and settings, that's going to be pretty important. I'm going to take us back to our previous page now and get us to where we're going. So we're going to talk about 2 things in here. We're going to talk about our property search. We're going to talk about our power prospecting, if we get to it. And then we're also going to talk about properties, and then we're going to talk about foreclosures. And so I don't know if you're aware of it, but you know, there, in any market, I don't care, in any market we have foreclosures. We have properties being taken back by banks, being taken by taxing agencies, you know, the county, things like that. In any market we have that. So, you know, people freak out when they see a foreclosure in the neighborhood or whatever. And I know, you know, there's no such thing as a foreclosure in California, other than a judicial foreclosure, but non-judicial foreclosure. But for our purposes, that's another law class. But for our purposes here, let's take a look and see what we've got. So when I click on property, I'm under power search, by the way. I click on property. I'm starting off with San Diego County, or I could have some saved results already, but I'm doing this one from scratch. So I've got San Diego County, and I want to find out some properties, and I can do it by an advanced search, or I can just start typing in an address. So if I start typing in an address, I type in, I'm just going to use this as an example, because this is something that I've already, I showed you a minute ago, and I'm going to be consistent with it. So you'll see as I'm typing it, and let me back out just a little bit, but look at this. So I did 2965, I hit the M. Here's all my M's in San Diego County. But as I go further and I start typing Mission, I don't need to complete the rest of it because I've already got it. All right, so I'm going to click on that property, and then I'm going to click on Submit. So it's already thinking, right? It's already looking all this stuff up, okay? All right. I'm going to show you some cool stuff. There's some really neat stuff in here that most of us never take advantage of. So here is the property search, the results. There are 18 properties with 2965 Mission in them. Here's my legend. It tells me what the coded things are, what the pretty icons are next to the property. Okay, and then I'm going to scroll down. Well, I happen to be looking for a particular property, and so for me, I'm looking for 3D. So notice how I have all the, look, there's 2A, 2B, 2C, 2D, 2E. Well, rather than scrolling through them, which I could do, and there's the one I'm looking for, 3D, but I could do that, and then I'd have to go to page 2 and do all that kind of stuff. But from this page here, I can go ahead and I can type in the number 3, and then I can type in the letter D, and then I can hit update results, and it's going to take me to only this property. Okay, everybody follow me? If you know the unit number, you can do that. So then I'm going to click. So here's my APN number, and you know your APN number is like the thumbprint of the property, much like you and I have a thumbprint. No two are alike, right? That the same holds true for my APN number. Okay, so it gives me the owner's name, it gives me the lot numbers, it gives me the subdivision. I'm going to click on it, or I can click on the arrow over here. I'll get the same result. And if I was creating a list, obviously I could check the boxes in there. Sometimes we'll do marketing. I've sold a lot of homes this way. I'm actually thinking one in particular in Del Mar, in Casa Del Mar, where I had a client who said, I want to live in that complex, in that community. And so I went ahead and I just pulled up all the properties with that street address, and then I checked the boxes on all the ones that I knew weren't real estate agents and that kind of thing. And I sent an open letter to all of them. I actually hand wrote the letter to, I think, about 20 of the owners that qualified for what my client was looking for. You know, she was looking for a 2-bedroom, not a 1-bedroom. So I was able to take the data and make it so that I had a pretty good list to work off of. And that's how I did that. And by the way, the program allows you to create mailing labels when you're going to do that. I personally believe if you want someone to open something, I probably wouldn't do mailing labels. In my experience, I like to handwrite them, but just so you're aware, because they're more likely to open it up handwritten. I've seen people blow it where they'll handwrite the addressee, but then they won't handwrite their address in the upper left-hand corner. They'll put a sticker up there, and then people are thinking, oh, this is just another mass mailing. So if you want to get better traction, if you want to get more open rate, then you might want to consider doing it that way. So now here, this has pulled up the property itself. My comment to the individual asking me this morning about having the buyer sign off on the tax record, I was okay with it, but only as a PDF, because obviously they could click on, if they were getting it as an HTML, which I'm not sure how you could do it, that they could click on that and go back to the MLS. And so I don't want the client having access to the MLS. So in my situation here, I've got a bunch of things I can do. I can email this to people either as an original or condensed. I can save it as a PDF. I can click it, print it. Me personally, I don't have a printer tied up. I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. I default to PDF. So I default to not printing a document to paper. Our broker, Linda, you all know Linda. I love Linda, but Linda loves to print things. It makes me insane, right? So she has her own printer. I mean, it's a cool printer. It was not cheap, but she's got her own printer. Me, I put everything in a PDF because I find most times I'm just emailing it to people anyway. So I can do that. I can look at previous or next reports. I can save the report. I can do all those things. Okay. So then underneath that part of it, I'm in the property. I can click on the comps. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. I like having comps. And I know some of us are going to say, well, gee, I can always call my friendly neighborhood title rep and they can get me, all of this. And I'm going to tell you, there's some value in that. There's some value in being able to get all the recorded documents, in here. I can get them for you, but I got to pay for it. So, but, having someone available who will pull this up for you can be very convenient. Okay. At least today it's not illegal as long as they offer that service to anyone, regardless of any expectation of remuneration. So, so here are my comps, my comp information on the property. I can do adjustments. I can add improvements. I can do things like that. I can get a pretty good chart out of this, sales prices of comps, stuff like that. And obviously I didn't hone it down a little bit, so I'd have to do that to make this a little bit more accurate. I like the CRS tax data information, but I also like RPR. So, some pretty good programs out there, but this is looking very much like what I get when my title company sends me stuff. And so I'll frequently call my title company and I'll say, I want, for example, any recorded documents. So I have one right now where, I suspect that the property is in default. And so I just asked them, I said, send me all the recorded documents. And sure enough, I got a notice of trustee sale. So it wasn't something that anybody was telling anybody else, but it was definitely a matter of record. Okay. And they're pulling it from the same place you and I are. They're pulling it from the county. Okay. All right. So that being said, I can customize my comps. I can use this for prospecting. And again, why is it taking so long to do all that? I don't know. Okay. All right. So I can do my prospecting out of this. And I'm sure most of you probably have very elaborate programs for doing this, but if you're trying to do this, and in fact, your SDAR has free programs for you. I think Cloud CMA is free, at least the basic. Most of the stuff that SDAR is giving you is going to have the basic models of things are going to be free. You start paying for it when you start getting, expounding on the free version. Here's a map, good map of the property. And then, the area around the property. And so, from here, I can go ahead and hit my submit button. So, and then finally, my facts and figures. Okay, I'm going to click. I've got all these reports available to me if that's something that you're interested in. Demographics is one of my favorites. I am not going to be having a conversation regarding demographics of a property, but I will send people public data. Whatever is readily available to anybody. Something that I may be able to find it faster than they can. But other than that, I'm not going to get involved in a lot of conversations regarding demographics. So that being said, it is incredibly irritating how long this is taking. I apologize to you. But obviously, when you're doing this on your computer and not on Zoom, it's probably going to run a little bit faster. So there's my property again, gives me a breakdown of my area. I've got about 841 people in this area. Here's my distribution of male to female. I don't know if that's important to anybody. Here's also my distribution based on age. Again, something else, I don't discuss ages or weights. And so here's my household incomes of these people. Looks like the majority of the people's household incomes is between $50,000 and $75,000. If this is important to you, educational level, you'll notice that we've got graduate degrees. We have no AAs in that whole area, no associates credentials in the whole area. We have only 2.9% with no diploma at all. Here's my professions. I get down to my sales, and look at that. My sales aren't even my highest one. My real estate sales are not the highest one. And then over here, how many cars we got, what are my housing profiles, how many of them renting. You can see it's a fairly significant number are renting properties, and then versus owning it. So Down here, I've got my, what type of property it is. You'll notice there aren't any mobile homes in there, but 2 to 4s, there are almost half of them are 2 to 4s. Okay, bedrooms, and most of the rest is, like I say, you can go ahead and take a look. When do they move in? When you see this declining move in, that might be a good sign that it's time for that arch to start going back up again. Looks like we've got, these are done by decades. So in the last 5 years since this data stopped, looks like there's a decline in the numbers of people moving in. That trend is probably going to be, actually right now we're seeing a resurgence in our market, which is, it's a little scary. San Diego's always been kind of cloistered. What am I looking for? It's always been kind of a protected little area. So, we tend to be fairly clueless about economics. I know not everybody agrees with me on that, but I do trial work as an expert witness on market conditions. And it was crazy before COVID. I think it's going to get really crazy, and we're already seeing it. We're already getting properties, 5, 6 offers on them and stuff like that. So here's my year built of the properties. Here's my mortgages. What do their mortgages look like? Look at that, up to 24%, 29% don't have mortgages. That's not really a surprise. What are my mortgage costs? What are my gross rents? I would challenge you to find a property there that has $1,192 a month in rent. So anyway, that would be pretty aggressive. Okay, is everybody seeing that screen? Says yes. Yes, okay, you already can see that screen. Okay, all right, so that being said, let me take us back to my, oops, wrong button. Okay, take us back to my search. We talked about demographics. Let's take us back to our search. Okay, great. I hit the wrong button. Sorry about that. I hit it a little too fast. See, that's what happens when you're not patient. Okay, now here's something I can show you something else. I can go look at my recent properties. I don't have to type everything all in again. I can go back to the one I just looked at. So let's go ahead and click on that. Let's take a look at number 3D and get straight to it. Okay, from that home page. All right. I'm going to close some windows on the background here. Okay, oh, I had several different zooms going. That'll explain some of it. Okay, all right. So here I am back to my property, and I got some really cool stuff. So this is my main tax record, right? Remember, this is where we said we can go ahead and print it. We can do a lot of things to it, right? If I took this out of here, I can see if I'm still spinning. I'm spinning up here. Okay, so that being said, let's take a look. So I'm going to have my picture of the property as it appears in the tax record up in the front. Question: when you use CRS data for your listing input, especially year built, do you choose assessor as the source? So Jane, that is $1 million question. That is an excellent question. Why? Because listen, I don't want to be the source. So as I've always said, you want to be the source of the source, not the source. So in other words, I'm going to be the source of where they can go look for it. I am not going to be the source of that information. And so your answer is absolutely. I've got a whole bunch of drop downs when I'm doing that. So let's take a look at my listing again really quick. I'm going to do my, if I do my listing input, when I take a look at the listing itself, it's going to ask me what is the source of your data, and the answer is I'm usually going to check assessor's records because that's where this is coming from, but I might also choose public record. That's another option in the program, so I might choose public record. Me personally, I'm going to check assessor's record. This is coming from the county assessor's office, county recorder's office, but I'm going to check that box. I definitely want to get rid of anybody thinking that I'm the one that made it up. So where's my field is going to be under what? General, right? Should be source of square footage. Help me out, Jane. Do you know where it is? Okay, I'm going to spend too much time looking for it. Here we go. Source of square footage. It's right here, field number 167. So I'm going to click this drop down, and as I see from my drop down, it's going to give me several options in here. So I'm gonna pick the one that I have the least issue with having to defend, and that is that I got my information from the county. I'm gonna click on assessor's record, and I'm gonna click on save. Okay. And you probably were answering my own question at the bottom of general, right? Okay, good. Thank you, Jane. Good. Okay, towards the top. Source of square footage. Oh, you're also looking at the lot size source of square footage, and I'm also going to check the box the same for that. I'm going to call it the assessor's record, and I'm pretty safe in doing that. You know, if they want to sue anybody, they can sue the county, right? I'm all in, right? Sue the county. I think you should. Hopefully that answered your question. I'm not encouraging people to sue the county. It's I've been involved in that personally, suing the county, and it's not a winner. So it's expensive. Anyway, okay, thank you, Jane. Good question though. Okay, so back to my main tax record. Again, I'm looking at this property and I'm seeing a picture that the county took. They may have borrowed, I'm sorry, they took that from the MLS. So you can see I've got pictures in here. So when I send it to my client, they can scroll through the pictures. Over here on the right, I've got a pretty good rendition of a plat map. I can view it on a larger size, you know, things like that. I can upload my own if I want. I'd be reluctant to do that. I like using their information. Okay. And then when I go down just a little bit further, I've got some other fields that I'm going to show you. Some of these are really cool. So I've got my location. So first of all, there's my address, and here's what's important to me. So I always know when my agent's done their job, because when they input the listing, if they do the tax autofill and it doesn't include the zip +4, we're going to do that in our zip forms program. So we always, whenever we write an offer, whenever we take a listing, we always pull up the tax data from the MLS, and we also pull it from an RPR, and we're always going to see this zip +4 right here. Everybody see that 8025? So when you look in, you know, in an offer or a counter offer from us, you're always going to see that 4 digits. So we call that the zip +4. I was explaining that to somebody the other day. The post office uses that number. That's why it shows up here, and it gets mailed to people pretty quick. Okay, it helps them to narrow it down. I think, frankly, I don't think you can probably go without the address. You can go without the owner's name, but as long as you have the zip +4, I think you're doing okay. John, correct me if I'm wrong on that. Okay, you can see the property's in pretty good shape. When I hover over the icon, it gives me the listing number. It tells me that the listing date was on the 1st of June. Starting the summer off just right, and it tells me that my listing price is $749,000. So obviously, again, going back up, my legend isn't there, but if it's red, then that tells me we're going into foreclosure, which this one is clearly not going to go to foreclosure. So this information may not be helpful to you at all. There's that tax record again, that Thomas Brothers map guide. Over on the right-hand side, I've got the summary of what type of property is. There's my square footage. There's my number of buildings. So it is one building. See, this is helping me input my information into the MLS when I'm inputting it. So for example, here I go, you know, it's going to ask me questions about, you know, how many stories, you know, here we go. So, you know, how many stories in the building? Well, I think we got 3, right? So I got 3 stories in the building. How many, you know, what's the entry level? The entry level is the first floor, right? To the building. The entry level to the unit is on the 3rd floor. So again, yesterday was the listing input and maintenance class, but this is information I'm getting from the tax data is helping me come up with those answers. Now, one of the things you can do is click on here where it says, click here for Sanjus Parcel Report. And as I've said to you before, you know, please go in and play with the program. I mean, it's kind of a neat, all of the stuff that we give you to work with, we're not creating anything that's going to start a, you know, any kind of crisis. You know, go in and play with stuff. You know, you can't hurt it. You can't break it. You're not going to change anything at the county. Okay. So here's my, I really like this parcel report. I don't even think Linda has looked at this recently, but you get all this, you know, really cool information. This might be really good, Linda, for us to put into our zip forms program. So remember, you want to be saving your data someplace. I'd recommend, the deputy commissioner says, probably putting everything into zip forms is a safe place to put it, rather than, you know, if there's a problem, you got to start hunting around your computer and which computer and all of that, trying to find it. So this gives us a lot of information about the property, and it also tells us who our city council member is, our board of supervisors, whoever that person, what district we're in, you know, who's our congressional representative, our Senate representative, our assembly representative. It gives us all this information. I'd be willing to bet most people don't even know that this information is available. And here it is. You've got access to it right from your own MLS. Okay, so that being said, that was my Sanjus parcel report. Let's scroll down a little bit. I got my general parcel information. There's my magic number, right? My APN number. That's going to be, real important number. Make sure you're putting it when you're writing an offer. Make sure you're clicking on MLS Connect, pulling in all these numbers so that they are represented in your program. You can also go, we have plans for what we're going to do with all that at the zip forms level of what you're going to be able to click on later. So in here, I've got my tax areas. These things you probably aren't going to think are important. That's fine. Over here on the right-hand side, now this is important. I've got the owner's name. Remember how I said we want to make sure we have the owner's name accurate. So here, apparently the owner's name, it's always last name first. So Robinson, Stephen, Kathy. So that's going to tell me that obviously, unless this person's middle name is Kathy, I happen to know that Stephen is Mr. Seller, Kathy is Mrs. Seller. So when I get a name that's kind of confusing like that, I'm probably going to go deeper, try to get more information on that, and I might do that through a number of other means. I've got my mailing address in case I want to send them any mail. I do remember that if you send mail to these people, they are currently listed, so it might be a violation. Is it occupied? No, they use it as a rental. And how are they holding title of the property? Community property, marital, community property. Okay, that information you don't care about because, listen, don't get involved in how do they want their vesting? Let the title company and escrow company handle that and explain it to them. So over here on the left again, I get down to the view the county's assessor's website. I can click on the county's website, and then I get a whole bunch of disclaimers. I'll show you. So here we've got, here's what the values look like. Kind of an interesting little thing. If you've ever met Ernie Dronenberg, he's quite a character. I like him. He's pretty funny. He always comes up to me and says, "Hey, you want me to increase your taxes?" And it's like, maybe not. Okay. All right. Anyway, so going down further, this gives us a bunch of information that we're going to have to sign off on. Please click here to continue. And then we've got a whole bunch of other really good information. So from here, notice that in the county website, I can access all these things. I'm not going to do a whole, class on how that's important, but let's take my APN number again. Okay, I'm going to click on that, and then I'm going to click on search. Okay, I could have looked it up by house number and street name, but again, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this. But now look what I've got. I've got my property detail, which is the second thing, and here's how it looks on the county's website. Okay, so that's funny because that's not their address. I don't believe in Pennsylvania. Might be. Anyway, you got a good map on the right, so you got a little bit more detail. If you click on any of these other links, to try to get any more detail, then they're going to start charging you for it. Okay, so here's my sales history. They obviously bought the property 2 years ago and paid $650 for it, and now they're on the market for $100 more. So do the math. Okay, additional reports, I can click on that. That's going to take me into a field that's going to charge me, but again, 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 989 square feet. Everybody good with that? I'm not going to go through all these, but you can look at transaction history. You can actually figure out the supplemental tax estimator, which I think is really kind of neat. Although I don't give tax advice, so I'm probably not going to use it, but some of you are much brighter than I am. You can click on that, and then you can actually figure out what the new person is going to be getting as far as a supplemental tax bill is concerned. I just stay away from it. I don't find a whole lot of people asking me that kind of a question, okay? So let's get out of the county's site, get back to our main one. Let me just make sure we're all on the same page. Yes, we are. Okay. And so down here, I can look at my sales history. I really like this. Some of these sales occurred without the use of the multiple listing service. So it gives me some pretty good information. Who were the owners? How much were they selling them for? But then more importantly, over here on the right, I've got my book page or document number. So that's going to show that, if I want a copy of the grant deed from here, I would click on this link, but then it's going to charge me $5. Okay. Otherwise, I can go into my friendly neighborhood title company's website and pull it up myself and not get any fee for it at all. I'm not going to click on the link. This tells me somebody died. I don't know, maybe died in the property. I think we're probably beyond the 3 years from the sale. So I don't think it's going to be a major issue unless, of course, it was a heinous act. And then I'll go forward here into my tax assessments. This is what the tax bills look like. And this may be why the individual thought, the listing agent thought it was important for the buyer to sign off on this information, I guess. But one of the more important things I want to show you here. So here's my taxes as they've been going up every year. okay? Because remember, you got 2% of base, okay? So your taxes can go up 2% of base. Let's take a look at my tax details. And here, this is important. So I see it in the MLS all the time where people put in, it says, are there any special assessments? And the answer is no. Well, I don't know how you're going to say that, because I'm looking right here at this one and I see assessments, right? I don't know of any properties in San Diego that don't have a special assessment of some kind. Now, special assessment, as it differentiates from a Mello-Roos assessment, okay, because Mello-Roos assessment supposedly isn't a tax, but then we have these things, which are bills that are put on property, like my mosquito surveillance for $3, or my metropolitan water standby charges, okay, for $11.50, my vector disease control, so that's going to be rodents, right, so critters. So we have these bills, and it's $38.40 for this property, which was built in 1970. And then when Mello-Roos came along after October of '88, now we'll see like $1,500, and all that. Now we start to see big numbers like that. We go, I wonder what that is. And of course, that's a trigger to us that there may be another special assessment on the property. So y'all see how this is pretty helpful. I really like that data. And then you got all the tax data underneath that, what essentially the county is relying on. So let me exit out of this, and oh my gosh, I can make anything last forever. So I can look, from there, that's what I looked at, my tax details, but then I can also look at my mortgage history. So here it is, cross-country mortgage. I'd click on this number to get a copy of the book and page, but again, I'm gonna have to pay for that, so I'm probably not going to want to do that. Again, I know what I'm asking for when I call title and I say give me this, okay? So I'm always saying give me a property profile, give me any recorded documents, so that I can see what all those look like. And I've had it happen on more than one occasion where all of a sudden there's a notice of default against the property and I need to know about that. I can click on the mortgage trust details, and this is probably all the information I'm really going to need. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's what they owe on the property right now. It just means that that's what the original loan amount was for. So my original loan amount was $523,200. They could have made big payments against it. They could have added another mortgage that isn't on this thing. They could have added, a second deed of trust. They could have done a lot of things. So if I want to look at the actual trust deed, which is the actual document, once again, I got to pay for it. Okay, so I'm going to cancel that. And then anything else in here is important. I don't see anything in here that's important to me. Let me X out of this. And then down here, foreclosure history. Listen, if you go into this tax data and you see that there's a history of foreclosure, like I was looking at another one the other day, and it shows that this owner, every couple of years would start defaulting on their payments on stuff. So it kind of tells me that they're living life on the edge, like most of us, and they were going to have some issues. And then sure enough, here they're having issues again. So property characteristics of the building, all this stuff, you can look at this on your own. Lot characteristics, it's not going to have a lot size, will be based on the whole community. And then what else? A legal description. So, it's interesting. And when I teach this in other states, I have to explain to people that the address of the property is not the legal description of the property. The address of the property is an accommodation. And the law allows us to create contract based on the address of the property, even though that when we transfer the title from the seller to the buyer, we're going to need the legal description, right? Now, you and I don't need it. Title's going to get it for you. That's just one of those things that kind of happens in the background that we miss. But they're going to need to have that. So that's why they like to talk to us in terms of our APN number, assessor's parcel numbers. In the flood zone, I can actually look at the map and all this. I mean, this is kind of neat. We actually have references. You can learn. I mean, this is, click on the link, go to the website for floodsmart.gov and get all that information. Here's my listing archive. It tells us, who's had it listed before. So it looks like we have the current listing. It looks like we had the listing before that for 2 months. And then the listing expired on the 30th of May. And then on the 1st of May, it looks like we put it back in there again, same agent, and new listing number. But again, the listing, so if the MLS were to call us up and say, send us a copy of your listing agreement, it'll match identically what you're seeing right here. So our initial listing was for 2 months, and then we chose to list it for the entire summer, and hopefully it'll sell now during the summer rush. which some of us don't think is happening right now. So it expired at that point. We let it expire. A couple of days later, we had a new listing signed by the seller, and we put it back in the MLS again. So before us, we can see an 1800 or 18 number, which means it was in 2018. Looks like the listing broker was first rate. Says the buyer's agent was Ashley Kelly with Coldwell Banker at that time. She represented the buyer buying the property, and that gives you all that information. Prior to that, it looks like Coldwell Banker was involved in the sale before as well. Okay, so everybody, that's a lot of really good information, I think, on the tax record. But I do want to show you a couple more. I did tell you that if I click on View MLS, it will pull up the MLS for me. That was why I didn't want them sending out a hot link on the MLS. This is going to give me a property detail report. So, you know, technically speaking, I could send that to my client because it does not contain contact information or any confidential information, which is what we want to be careful we don't give people. Okay. All right. That being said, I wanted to show you a little bit about power prospecting. I'm okay on time. And so there's a couple of things that we can go, and again, go in here and play around with it. I mean, it's a pretty neat little program. This is going to give me a big map, but I'm going to show you in a second. I might want to nail that down a little bit. So for example, if my prospect criteria is that I want it to be 92109 zip code, then that's going to change a lot of things, right? So here's my original map is pretty much all of San Diego County, but now I'm going to knock it down to 92109. And I'm going to get essentially the PB area. There's still over 5,500 properties, and my map stayed the same as well. But you know, this is the field I'm going to use if I want to start marketing to people. Some people say, you know, hey, I want to market the people that are more likely to sell a property at this time, and that's usually going to be somebody that's owned it for a couple of years, not somebody that just bought it a week ago. And so you would want to be looking for it that way. So again, my prospect list, you know, in the 92109 zip code. Here I've got my addresses of my properties. I got my zip codes. I got my APN numbers. I've got all this information. So that's a way to do it. And this is going to be too many for me to have labels. So I want to show you the label feature before we run out of time here. Any questions so far? No. Okay. Let me see. Keep check, remove checked. I'm gonna uncheck everything, and then I'm just going to check a couple of them so I can show you how to create a mailing label. Okay, so let's check this one. Let's check this one, or I want to send a pre-foreclosure letter, and so now I'm going to go down here to the bottom. So again, up here at the top, I'm sorry, that's an expired listing. Pre-foreclosure is going to have my yellow on it. So maybe I'm just targeting expired listings. So boom, boom, and again, there is no do not mail list. There is a do not call list, but I might be choosing to just send letters to people. Fine, send them letters. That's not a problem. Proceed to labels and exports. Again, if you're doing labels, my advice is not to. I think pretty sure title can still, despite Senate Bill 133, title can still issue you mailing labels. But you know, here you go. Here's my power prospecting. You can create no more than 5,000 labels a month. I don't imagine a lot of people are doing that. Most people have programs that'll do this. So I have 5,000 until I actually do this export. So skip records with no zip codes, skip records with no zip +4. Remember, we talked about the zip +4. I want first names. I want owners' addresses in there because I don't want to send it to the property if the owner's not in it. I want fields for Mr. and Mrs. So you see all these things that you can check. And you can download things and you can put it into other programs. Like if anybody is still using Top Producer, there you've got the ability to do it right there. And then I want it to, so I can export my files, boom, away, you know, we're going to do the exporting of files. And we can see that it's thinking. And now it's creating my list down here on the bottom. So, which is kind of a neat little thing. So I'm going to open that up and show you that really quick. Okay, I'm using Microsoft 365. Y'all using Microsoft 365? I'm not unhappy with it, but it is a learning curve for me because I'm coming from Excel to Office 2013. So here's all my mailing labels. And of course, the program did what it wasn't supposed to do, and that was that it also included properties that I had not checked. So that being said, I'm going to X out of that. I'm going to go down to create my mailing labels. And again, my Who-To labels. Let me see, Avery 5160s. I mean, if you've got mailing labels, you know to look at the box and it'll tell you what kind of label you've got. Make sure you have the right one in there. And then you can start your create label button. So let's go ahead and click on that. And question, Jane, when we end, we're gonna end with your ha 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 on your question. That's pretty cute. Thank you, Jane. Okay, so I'm waiting for it to create labels. Where did it go? There they are down at the bottom. Okay, we're gonna create labels. He says with confidence, and there's my labels. See, or current resident. So obviously I didn't check the right box on there, but this just gives you an idea what those labels are going to look like. And then once you've got this, you can go ahead and print those. You see they're all in there addressed for you. They all have the zip +4. You see what I'm saying about that? That's going to be pretty helpful information. So that is our mailing label. And I can restart the whole thing. I can step back one screen. I'm going to hit restart, take us back to the beginning. Are there any questions about any of this that I can help you with? Help is a pretty good button too. At least in this one, you know, look, you can actually look all these other things up. Oh, we didn't do the foreclosure results or foreclosure search, you know, so I can click on foreclosure search and then obviously where we were, click on foreclosure, you put in the county, and then we can get all this information. Let's take a look at that really fast. Here's my data. Let's go to my property search. I want to cancel that. So here's my foreclosures. Again, I want San Diego County. What type of foreclosure? So do I want a pre-foreclosure or do I want all of them? Let's just try pre-foreclosure. And I only want active ones. I kind of like this. This is kind of neat, but again, you've got a lot of sources for this. And then if you have this information, go for it. I don't think I'm going to get a result when I do this because I haven't limited the criteria enough. And that's an interesting statement to make, right? Because there are a lot of properties that are pre-foreclosure today, but as you know, there's a moratorium on foreclosures, much like there's a moratorium on evictions. So I've got over 5,000 properties. That's a significant amount. And then we see I've got some of them are no address available, but obviously that's because we've got over 5,000. So let's change this to let's say Del Mar. How about that? Let's just call it Del Mar, and let's see if that changes my numbers at all. So boom, 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 update my results. There we go. Okay, so look at that. You might even know some of these people. And there's one on 7th Street that is supposedly, boy, I don't know. I know Dennis well, and I don't think he's going to foreclosure. Let's take a look and see what Dennis has going on. I guess he is. Look at that. Interesting. Sometimes you want to be careful about pulling things up because I was doing a class once. I was pulling up showing DRE results, and I pulled up a broker, a pretty big broker, who had his license suspended, his or her license suspended, and it was like, oh, that was kind of embarrassing, but you know, it's public record, right? So here's the property, and it looks like he is. Is he? I don't think is he. He's got it. He's sales contingent at $2.5 million. And then this little icon says that he is in pre-foreclosure, so he's probably just not making his payments. Anyway, hate to tell you, it's one of my neighbors, but so here goes the history of all that. So as we can see, I want to go back to my search results because I want to look at just Del Mar in general, and his came up first because of the number of the property. But you see what I'm saying? There are 13 properties that are in pre-foreclosure in Del Mar, and everybody thinks, wow, nobody ever goes to foreclosure in Del Mar. You know, here's 309th Street, here's 1570 Camino Del Mar, and that's going to be an Ocean Windows, right? So that's going to be, you know, those are sometimes bought and people don't know what they're buying. Here's one down on 167 Carmel Valley Road. I think that might be where the gas station is. 2401 Del Mar Heights Road. You're going to go up the hill a little ways, but you're still in Del Mar. Here's one on El Camino Real, Los Caballitos. There's one on Mercado. So, you know, this is how I find properties in my area. So I may end up, you know, doing mailing labels to people that are in pre-foreclosure in Del Mar. That might be a good resource for you. There's one in Normandy by the Sea. I'm kind of surprised by that. They tend not to ever go to foreclosure. Vantage Way, kind of a little known street up on the Height on the west side of 5. So anyway, you see what I'm saying? You got all kinds of information available to you when you go into the pre-foreclosure list as well. Okay, so any question? Wow, I'm good. Any questions on any of this? Anything we've done here today? I think we've covered a lot of really cool stuff. Seeing none. Let me minimize this. Let me pull up my email address again. So there's my email address. If you have any ideas for classes or anything that you'd like us to have, we'd love to hear from you. You know, the board, the Association of Realtors, is very concerned that you are getting certainly value, but also getting the things that you need to be able to do your business. And so, you know, sometimes we aren't able to get that answer readily, but sometimes some of the things, the questions that we have may create a great big, you know, long explanation. And that's why we're doing like the lawsuit avoidance class. We're doing the, we just yesterday had the how to create a winning listing presentation class, different than the class from last month. And we're constantly updating these things. So we're here absolutely to help you. I say we, you know, I'm probably one of the biggest fans of the San Diego Association of Realtors that's out there. So, you know, if there's anything we can do to help you, please let us know. If you are not on my email list that goes out on Saturday only, please let me know. Send me an email. I want to be on the list, or if you want copies of anything I've done, happy to get it for you. And then in the alternative, if you're not getting emails, then maybe we need to talk about why you're not getting emails. It could be because I'm on a personal mission to get rid of free email. I think you know, I think we need to be working with email that you know, isn't free, because certainly free is not secure. Okay, John, thank you so much. I so appreciate you being here. I really do, all of you. I appreciate you all being here, and it really says a lot. You know, it helps me, makes me feel good about what I'm doing. Every time, you know, John, you're making a really good point. Every time I think I understand something, it just means I can learn more. Always learn new stuff. I learn new stuff every day. People go, oh God, you know everything there is to know about real estate. Oh no, I learned things today. I was doing things this morning. You know, I sent an email to somebody at 4 o'clock, or was it 5? 4 o'clock this morning, and they're like, what are you doing up? And I said, I'm learning new stuff. So, you know, absolutely get in there and play with this stuff. And John, thank you. That's very kind of you. And Jane, always, you're awesome. Dawn, good to see you again. There's an MLS rules class, but it is in August. Is there a class earlier than the August class? Oh, you know, that's a really good question. I may end up doing that class. So, Dawn, can you send an email? Do me a favor, all of you, if you want to see an MLS rules class, there's some really cool rules that we all need to live with. Send an email to education@sdar.com. Please do me that favor, okay? So education@sdar.com, and say, listen, can we have an MLS rules class? Because I'm the chair. And it's like, wow, why aren't we doing that class? And what do you mean you're waiting until August? So we can get that on the calendar. We can get that going. So please send them an email. And please don't tell them I said to send them an email. Just send them an email that says, you know, we need a rules class, you know. So there's some really, there's like they have a really good presentation in the MLS about, you know, rules everybody should know. And I think that's great. You know, it's like, these are the ones that are most commonly violated. Or like when I do my class on the top 10 DRE violations, you know, and you know, I get a handful of people, and I think we're just doing a bad job of marketing it. But, you know, the DRE is here to help, right? And so some of us that are following the rules really appreciate the work that they do. But you know, I have some of the most amazing conversations with you know, in meetings with Veronica Kilpatrick. And as you know, I've done, I did the new laws with her. She's a deputy commissioner here in San Diego County. Listen, when she talks, I'm writing stuff down. I had a page of notes that I was writing things down when she was talking, and I'm on a panel with her up at the front. And so it's just so many great things that are out there, and our business is twisting and turning and changing, and you know, the bad guys aren't going to be there next year, and the top producers are going to be different next year too. So are you going to be that top producer? Listen, I want you to be the top producer next year. Okay. So thank you all. I really very much appreciate you being here, and thank you for coming to the class. And again, anything I can do to help you, please let me know. I'm doing another class here coming up in 2 hours. We'll be launching into the RPA. So I look forward to hopefully seeing you again then. And let me make sure I'm not missing anybody. And again, thank you all for being here. I hope you have a wonderful day today. Okay, take care for now.